There we are. We're recording. All right. Welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic with Shauna Sue. I own Crooked Door Studio in Uptown Marysville, Ohio. We've been closed for a long time, a long time. At some point, I will count how many this is, but I don't even know anymore. Mid-March, I think, is when we went virtual. Couple random private parties here and there, but for the most part, we've been closed. So this has been a beautiful thing. Virtual painting has been a beautiful thing for me and for you, because I know a lot of you aren't local to Marysville. So you get to paint and hang out and have fun from the safety of your home, which is awesome. So I put in the chat box all the supplies that you need for the night. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. We'll wing it. It'll be fine. Something that's not there that you might want to grab if you think you have it somewhere, an old toothbrush. If you don't have it, don't worry about it, right? We'll make do without it. But a toothbrush is sometimes fun to flick to get either stars or snow in the sky. Can be a little messy, so you have to decide if that's a direction you're going to go. So, but I'm going to grab my toothbrush and lay it out just in case. Okay, let me do that while I'm thinking about it. Get in my brush kit here. This is where my old toothbrushes go. They go in my brush kit when I replace them from the bathroom. All right, that to the side. Okay, so first thing we want to do is check our surroundings. The paint that we're using is acrylic paint, water-based, water-soluble. But if you get it on your clothing and it dries, it's a real bear to get out, right? So since we're all painting at home, we're not at the studio, take a minute and look around. Make sure you're not standing on a really nice rug. Get that out of the way. Put something down. It's really easy when you're painting to flick off the edge of the canvas with your brush, not even realize you've done it until you find paint on the sofa later. That was a little personal for me, paint on the sofa. Oops. So take a minute and look around. I have an apron on. I also have an old shirt on underneath. I'm real bad about getting paint on my shoulders. Who knows, right? Who knows? So there's that. Canvas. Tonight I'm painting on a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. That means it's stretched, wrapped around, and stapled on the back. For those of you that are painting your canvases black now, make sure you get those edges. It always looks nice when your painting is wrapped all the way around. That gives it a really nice finished look. Let me get our inspiration picture here. Oh, my tablet went to sleep. So here's our inspiration picture, not my painting. And I know it's hard to see because it's on a tablet. There we go. Not my painting. It's just something we found for inspiration. So we're going to do it. We're going to see what happens. I like to point out that this is not mine, right? Another lovely artist has done this at some point. That's to let you know that mine probably won't look like that. Yours won't look like that. It might not, it might. And that's okay, right? It's going to be your version of that. So you do what makes you happy tonight. Don't feel like you have to stick exactly with this, okay? It's just an inspiration for us to go by, for me to show you some techniques. All right. So I've got my inspiration picture there. I've got my canvas. I usually ask, are you going to leave your canvas vertical or are you going to flip it landscape? It's up to you. It's your painting. I think this one works really well vertical, but again, your painting. You get to decide. Okay. Brushes. As for brushes tonight, I have a big fat brush, a big oval wash brush for my background. Okay. Something that I'm going to use. I'll probably use this on my ground. I'll do this to put my my northern lights in my sky, right? Just a big brush. Then I have some kind of a medium brush. I have a medium filbert, just a medium flat filbert, something that you can work on your tree with, work on your smaller bits, and then a pointy brush. These 3 brushes, when I'm not using them, they live in my water cup. So I'm going to take these guys and dump them in here. I like to use an old mason jar. You could use a coffee cup. I like to use something that's heavy. It's less likely that you'll knock it over as opposed to like a solo cup. Solo cup is fine, but I like something heavy, and I have designated this as my paint cup. I've been using it for years. Halfway full with cool or cold water, never warm or hot. Hot water does something weird to the paint in the brushes. It dries the paint in the brushes. Cool or cold, okay? Other things that I have over here, I grabbed a toothbrush, right? Just in case, we might use it, we might not. You might decide in your house that you don't want to splatter paint with a toothbrush, but I have it just in case. If you decide you want to, I'll show you how. I also have a paint pen, totally optional, but it's something I keep in my supply bag. I like to sign my paintings with a paint pen because I am really bad at signing with a brush. And I'm a firm believer that all paintings should be signed, either on the front or on the back, but they should be signed, okay? I've got some paper towels down here underneath my water cup to dry my brush off on. I've got my inspiration picture over there on my tablet. Let's talk about paint. Okay, let's get into our paint colors for the night. I've got a lot of colors on there, but not much of any one of the colors, right? The most I have is probably white, because we're going to use white for the ground, white for the snowman. We use white for a lot of blending. If you've gotten paint from the studio, if you're using the same paint I'm using Blick Acrylic, Blick Student Acrylic paint. Student grade paint is fantastic to learn with because you can buy it by the bucket. It's relatively inexpensive, great to learn with. A little bit of a challenge though, because it's student grade, it makes it very transparent. It has a lot lower level of pigment, so it makes it transparent. So I have white there that I'm going to mix with my colors to make my colors more opaque, to make them more solid, nice and bold. Okay. Then I have yellow. Any yellow will do. Orange. Any orange will do. The red that I have, I'm using bright red. You can use any red you want, unless you're going to mix it to get purple. You have to be really careful with red when it comes to mixing it with blue to get purple. If you have a red that is an orange red or a fire red, don't mix that with blue. You'll get poop. You'll get a poop color. If you're not sure what red you have, do a little mix. Pull your red and blue together and do a little mix and see if you can get purple and not poop, okay? I'm using phthalo blue because it's nice and dark, phthalo green, burnt umber, just a nice chocolate brown, and Mars black. Then some of you, I alluded to this a moment ago, because my planning was poor and I ran out of phthalo green while I was packing kits. Some of you have green oxide, which I think is closer to the color of the tree anyway, right? Those of us that are using phthalo green, we're gonna add yellow and white to it to get it closer to this color. And then I also gave you guys some turquoise, just because it's a really pretty color. And I thought it might be fun to do a couple swishes of it in the tree and maybe a little bit in the background. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe my snowman's mittens might be this color. But again, this is apology paint. You guys have this to play with. Okay. All right. So I said 7:15. It's 7:13. So we have 2 minutes. Let me take this opportunity to point out that in the chat box, not only do I have our supply list over there, I also have listed where you can donate to the studio. Through the donations that you guys send to the studio, either Venmo, PayPal, money in the door at the studio, money in the lockbox at the studio, however you get it there, you're the reason that I'm able to pay my rent at my studio to keep my space open for when the pandemic's over and we can all go back. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for helping a small business and keeping my little studio space available. Even though we're not using it, you guys have made it possible to keep it there for me. When the pandemic's over, we'll be able to get there. Okay. All right. Oh, to accept a friend request. There we go, Kelsey. Got you. Okay. So one more minute before we get started. If your canvas is still a little wet, if the black is still a little wet, we want it to be dry. Find your blow dryer. Okay. And we'll take another minute here and then we'll get started. Thank you, Kelsey. Okay. So while we're waiting that final minute, I always like to talk about our painting and the direction we're going to go with it. Oh, it's funny. I'll have it and then there we go. There's like a sweet spot where you can see it. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. I want to put my Northern Light colors in the back, right? That's where I was thinking, those of you that have the special turquoise, that might be lovely back there. A little bit of purple. We're going to mix red and blue, right? We'll get those lovely colors back there. Then we'll put our ground on. Then we'll build our snowman. We'll put our tree on. And then we'll get to all the details, right? We'll put ornaments on our tree. We'll put the star on. Put his hat. We'll do all those things, okay? So I say we go ahead and get started. So this is my reminder to you that if you're struggling, if you're falling behind, if you're not having fun tonight, put your stuff away. Maybe it's not your night. Happens to me all the time, right? Put your stuff away. Know that this is being recorded. You can come back to it later. Okay, so there's no pressure tonight. All right, let's get started. So first things first, I want to put those lovely Northern Light-ish colors in the background. So remember when I talked about our paint and I said it's all very transparent, you have to add a little bit of white. So I'm going to start with my big brush. My brushes are old. I always do this before I start. I tap, tap, tap them in the bottom of the cup because they might be a little stiff. There might be some paint residue dried in there. So I like to tap, tap, tap gently just to soften them up a little bit. If you have brand new brushes, you want to do that because the brushes, when they come from the factory, they have like a starch on them to keep them nice and stiff in shipping. You want to get that starch out there. So ever so gently, dry that brush off on your paper towel. Push the water out of it. And it looks like on the original painting, there's a lovely purple. It looks like there's maybe 2 purple swipes here that are very gentle curves. They just kind of dance. And then a little bit of green here and a little bit of green there. So let's do that. It's not going to take much paint. So I'm going to start with my red and blue. Again, if you're not sure what red you have, you need to do a little bit of mixing to find out if you're going to have a successful purple. Okay. So I'm going to pull a little bit of red and a little bit of blue together here. And it looks really dark. It's hard for me to tell. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. Anytime you take color, always in the edge. Never the middle of the puddle, always in the edge of the puddle. I'm going to take a little bit of white and add in there. Ooh, that's a pretty purple. Success. I have a good purple. One more red. Okay. So tiny bit of paint. I have a little bit of purple. And I want to put, oh, that's pretty. Oh. I'm using just a little bit of paint. Not much at all. Because I just want that really subtle swipe of color. And I don't want to get rid of all my black that I have back there. Okay. You can see too, I didn't mix my red and blue real well, which is okay. So mine's a little bluer over here. It's a little redder there in the middle. Oh, that's pretty. That's really pretty. Now it looks like everything follows that same curve pattern. So I'm doing a very stretched out letter S. So I'm going to do that same curve. I think I want to do another one over here. Oh, needs more paint. Tiny, tiny bits. A little more. So now again, remember, this is whatever you want it to be, right? If you want a lot of purple up there, well, you go there, you do that. There's no right or wrong. Oh, I didn't realize I was going to enjoy this part of it quite as much as I am. This is lovely. Want another little streak down here. So just purple. Now I'm going to move into that really bright green. So once you have the purple on there, let's get all that out of your brush because I don't want my green to turn poopy. I want it to be a nice, lovely, bright green. So I'm going to clean it out, tap, tap, tap in the bottom of the cup. That knocks the paint out. And dry it off on my paper towel. The beauty of using such little paint in the background, this is all going to dry pretty fast. So we'll be able to build on top of it, right? Without having to wait a long time for paint to dry. Okay, so if you're looking for that really bright limeish green color that is the Northern Lights, you want the tiniest bit of phthalo green, tiny, 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 a little bit of yellow, a little more yellow than green, but it's still tiny bits, and white. So phthalo green, yellow, and white will give you this lovely lime color. More yellow. And remember, tiny bits, right? I don't have enough paint on there to even hold my brush together, right? There's that little in there. Do a, whoo, that's bright. Oh, that's pretty. One there. Maybe one there. Again, it's whatever you want it to be. And now for my friends with the bonus color. I'm going to get just the littlest bit of this. If you want this turquoise and you don't have it, you can mix it. This turquoise is essentially phthalo green, phthalo blue, and white. Blick has just made it a little easier by mixing it for us. Add a little phthalo green and a little bit of white. Oh, that's pretty. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my brush in my water cup, and we'll wait a few minutes because I want this to dry. How about 6 minutes? Let's go with my clock on my stove says 7:24. So how about 7:30? We'll move on. That'll give this some time to dry, and we'll be able to go ahead and put our ground in, and then start building our snowman on top. Okay. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, so 5 minutes. At 7:30, we'll move on. Remember, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. I'm keeping an eye on it. And I see some of you have donated. Thank you so much. Again, that makes my heart happy and removes a lot of stress from me, knowing that we're keeping the studio open. So the question comes up while the rest of you are finishing your sky and letting it dry. The question comes up, when am I opening the studio again? I don't know. I don't know. I think it'll probably be about the time that we start hearing restrictions being lifted. So maybe not till spring. But we'll continue to do this. We'll continue to paint virtually every Saturday night. Speaking of, I don't have a painting chosen for next Saturday night. So if you have some ideas, send them to me. That's the last Saturday before Christmas. I have an idea for the Saturday after Christmas, for the 26th, but I don't have anything for next Saturday. So send me ideas. About 4 minutes, we're going to move on. So in 4 minutes, you're going to need a clean big brush and clean white. I hope you guys are loving these colors. I am absolutely loving these colors. I feel like they're not coming across for what they are. They are really bold. I love them. I think they're bolder than the original. I'm okay with that. So again, 7:30, we'll move on. You've got 3 minutes. If you need to run to the bathroom or get a beverage real quick. Such a mom. Once a mom, always a mom. If you need to go potty, now's the time. Sorry. Because we're not going to stop the car again for a little bit. So random. I keep looking at the original painting and I'm like, that snowman is big. Do you guys appreciate how big he is? He has to fill this canvas. His belly is going to be like, oh, like that big. Because he appears to be about, oh, an extra 5 minutes? Absolutely. 7:35. My background is still a little wet. Somebody asked for an extra 5 minutes. I'm good with that. Okay. You're welcome. So 7:35, and I might need to go to the blow dryer too, because I don't want to pick up any of those colors in my snow or in my snowman. All right. I think 5 minutes I'll be okay. Yeah, so the snowman, he sits about 2 fingers off the ground, and his hat is maybe 4 fingers from the top. So he's going to fill this whole center section. It'll be good. It'll be good. We've got this. So 7:35. That'll give this plenty of time to dry. We've come to the romper room portion of the evening. I see Marie. I see the Orsinas. Breathe, Orsinas, breathe. I see Lynn. I see Andrea. I see Lori. Lori, is Emily here too? No, she's not here. Okay, so I have to share with you guys. For long-term watchers, you know about butter. You know the whole deal with the butter. For those of you that haven't joined us before, there was a point in class, I always like to, if somebody's eating, I like to know what you're eating. I like to live vicariously through you. There was a point in class that I started talking about butter, and I have a little obsession with this butter. It's a very special butter. I don't know what they feed the cows, but it's magic. So I went on this 5-minute talk about butter. So stand by. I got to the studio the other day, and there was a gift for me at the studio, and I opened it. Just one moment. And my sweet friends, Lori and Emily, found this for me. Is that not the most perfect thing ever? And I don't have it hanging yet because I'm not sure where I want to put it. We'll find a magic special butter place for it. The chicken jammies were amazing too, but this, I about peed my pants when I opened this. Oh. So butter, it's all about the butter. Okay, about another 3-ish minutes or so. And nope, I don't have to go to the blow dryer. Now's the time if you need to go to the blow dryer, get that sky nice and dry. You need clean white and a clean big brush before we move on. And now I'm curious, while we're waiting to move on, what's going on in the background at your houses? Christmas movies? Christmas music? I've got It's a Wonderful Life playing in the background. And years and years ago, my husband and mom got me It's a Wonderful Life because it's my favorite holiday movie. Got me It's a Wonderful Life on DVD. And there's the black and white version and the colorized version. And as an artist, you would think, oh, Pandora Christmas is good. As an artist, you would think I would watch the colorized version. Can't do it. Can't. It's in black and white. It's meant to be in black and white. Right, Marie? It's meant to be in black and white. So about 2 more minutes. I had to look, Marie, to see what you sent me. Thank you. Yeah, Pandora Christmas is good. Although every now and then mine goes off the rails. I forget what it played the other day. It was I think it gets confused because I have built my my Pandora stations mainly around Halloween because that's my time of year. And I think my Christmas station the other day picked up like some, I think it was Marilyn Manson, but it was like Nightmare Before Christmas. It's like, ooh, that's rough. Ooh, Christmas Vacation. I did that one last week. Ooh, Mormon Tabernacle Choir. That's good. Alicia, I had Christmas Vacation on last week. Oh, things. I was like, thongs, what's going on there? Okay. Almost 1 minute warning, and we're gonna move on. This is probably, I dare say, the only drying break tonight. I dare say. Where did that come from? I dare say. So I think what we're going to do next, completely optional, but I think I'm going to flick some snow in the background. So completely optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want to make a mess, because it can get messy. If you have a toothbrush, let's take a minute and do this. Okay. Let me show you how to flick with a toothbrush. The paint that we have is too thick. It won't come off the brush. You have to thin it down with a little bit of water. So I'm going to go in the water cup and I'm going to go tap, tap, tap. So I have a little water in there, but not a lot. I'm going to take a chunk of white paint and I'm going to come over here to a clean spot and I'm going to scrub, scrub, scrub. I'm using that little bit of water that's in my toothbrush to thin my paint down a little bit so it'll come off my brush. Again, this is optional. You don't have to do it. It can get messy. I'm going to tap the chunks out. So I did some scrub, 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 and then I'm tapping the chunks out. And then I'm going to grab an extra plate to shield. So I'm going to hold it bristles up and I'm going to pull my finger toward me and it's going to fly back that way. There we go. Now, flicking with the brush splattering is one of those things. Every now and then something like that happens. Right? I got a stringer. I'm going to be okay with it, right? Not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave it there. We'll move on. Take this and pop it in my water cup. Now, if you don't want to flick, when we get closer to the end, we can take the other end of our little brush and do little clusters of dots for snowflakes and or stars, depending on how you look at it. Okay. So totally optional. Don't have to do it. Let's move on. All right. Big brush. I'm going to clean it out. I'm going to tap, tap, tap it in the water cup. Tap, tap, tap. Dry it off on my paper towel. Push the water out. And I'm going to use clean white and put my ground on. My ground is not straight. My ground is actually a lovely arch. It looks like it arches up probably about 4 fingers high in the middle. That's just a rough estimate. So it starts down here at the corner, arches up and back down. And then let's fill it in. Now make sure as you do this, you're doing long brush strokes, right? Long, smooth brush strokes. If you do little short brush strokes, you can see every place you put your brush down and pick it up. I'm doing long, smooth brush strokes. There we go. And now it's time for our snowman. So we're going to build our snowman with white first, and then we'll do a little bit of shading to separate his different sections. And again, this guy's pretty big. It looks like he has 4 buttons, so one of his middle buttons on his middle section appear to be the middle of the canvas. So his middle section's going to be up here. And his bottom section is about 2 fingers off the bottom. So you can see how big this bottom section is going to be. Soup bowl, dessert plate, maybe not dessert plate, that's too big. Maybe the bottom of a dessert plate. Anyway, let's wing it. Big brush with white. And I'm going to step over here in front. So what did I say? That his middle section is in the middle of the canvas. So I'm going to come down a little bit. It's a little small. I might go a little bigger. Always good to start a little small. Okay. So as you fill him in, this is going to be really important for shading later. Fill him in like a bullseye. Around and around and around and around to the middle. That's going to help you with shading here in a little bit. So right now, just white. And then once you have that bottom one on there, let's put the middle one on. Little bit smaller. Coffee cup maybe. And that middle one sets down in the bottom one a little bit, right? It doesn't sit on it. It sits down in it a little bit. And again, I'm going to come back around front here. Just a little smaller. Need to make his bottom a little bit bigger. There we go. And again, fill him in like a bullseye. And then let's finish out with the head, right? Again, the head, like the middle, sets in a little bit and is a little bit smaller. Like a bullseye. Okay, so let's take another few minutes. It's just white right now. We'll get into shading here in a couple minutes. The trick with shading is you don't lay color on, you mix color in. So I want to move while this is still a little wet so I can blend the gray shading into the white and not lay it on top of the white. Okay. And my shading on all three of these is just a really light gray. So you see, I haven't rinsed my big brush out. I'm hanging on to it. I'm going to get even a little more white. And I'm going to take the tiniest bit of black. I can add more black if I need to, but once I have a really dark gray snowman, it's hard to go back from that, okay? So I'm going to, with the white on my big brush, I'm just going to barely creep in the edge of my black, just a tiny bit. Mix that around to get a nice light gray. Again, I can always go darker, but once it's too dark, it's hard to recover from that. If it does go too dark, let it dry, paint it back over. Okay, that's the beauty of acrylic paint, is you can let it dry and paint it over, but if you try to fix it while it's wet, it'll just make your mess bigger. So my shading appears to be mostly on the bottom, but a little up to the left. So again, this white is still wet. I have gray on my big brush. I'm going to blend that right along there. Bottom. Snowman's been out in the dirt way too long. Yes, let him dry. See, this is the hard part about acrylic paint. You have to sit there in your perceived mistake for a while. It's like a life lesson. And let it dry. Go to the blow dryer, Alicia, and then come back and put some white back over. Get just a little more. Or Alicia, we call him a March snowman. He's that snow that's been there like all winter long. That's all gross and road dirty. Okay, so again, left and bottom. And I'm blending it into the white, not laying it on the white. Okay. Let's do that on every section. Maybe even go a little darker. This is where things go wrong for me. I'm like a little darker. And then before I know it, bam, dark gray snowman. Here we go. Let's do that on every section, every segment of him. Left and bottom. Hey, oh, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. So one of the last things I'm going to do to my snowman body, and I'm not going to do it right now, but here in a little bit when we're getting into details, something that will accentuate those different sections a little more. I'm going to do just the littlest bit of black outline right there at the left and bottom of those sections. Not going to do it now. I'll do it closer to the end. But I think with the gray shading and that little black line at the end, we've got a pretty fancy snowman. So we'll take a few more minutes. I see people still painting, still shading away. So you guys keep going. I'm gonna rinse my brush out though. I think we're gonna move on to tree next while we let this guy dry a little bit. Put our tree in over here. So how about 7:55? It's about 5.5 minutes. We'll move on to tree. And I'm going to step away for just a moment. Looks like my husband just got home. Remember, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, I'm back. About 4 minutes. Poor Gertrude, she's so confused now. I don't know if you can see her over there by the door. I accidentally, well, not accidentally, saw my husband pull in the driveway and I said, D-A-D-D-Y is H-O-M-E. And then he's not coming in. He went to the workshop. So now she's like, where is he? And he'll probably stay out there till after class is over till 9. So for the next hour, she will be searching for him because I said he's H-O-M-E. And yes, I spell so she doesn't get all excited again. 3 minutes. So in 3 minutes, we'll move on. I want to give everybody plenty of time to get that snowman shaded. We're going to move on to the tree next. So we're going to need a medium brush and green, yellow, white, and we'll put a tree on there. All right, about another minute and a half. And remember, while we're on our drying breaks, if you're ready to move on, and we're still in a drying break and we're not moving on yet, search for some ideas for next Saturday. I need ideas. I see I'm already getting some ideas. People are sending them through to me. You can private message them to the studio or email me. Okay, let's go ahead and move on with that tree. So just like the snowman, the tree's pretty big. It takes up a lot of the painting. It takes up almost a third of the painting. So my tree starts without the star, just the tree. It's about as tall as my snowman is. And then it comes all the way down and sits, looks like pretty level with where the snowman sits. Okay. So I'm going to use my medium brush instead of my round brush, because my medium brush has more bristles. It'll hold more paint. For a tree this large, we're going to need that. But I'm going to use it skinny ways. I'm not going to use it fat ways the way you would think you would use it. I'm going to flip it and use it skinny ways. So let's use some green. And I'm going to add a little bit of white to it so you can see it. Because again, all my colors are very transparent. If I put just phthalo green on here, you won't see it. So I'm going to take a little bit of white, a little bit of phthalo green. If you're one of the people that doesn't have enough phthalo green, use some of that green oxide, some white and some green oxide. So white, phthalo green, and let's put the backbone of our tree. I always like to put that main trunk so I know where I'm laying my branches on, right? I have to have a road map. So I'm going to start here about level with the top of my snowman. And I'm going to come down, down, and down, about level with where the snowman is sitting down here. Now, I'll paint that over black here in a minute, but I want to make sure I'm on that same line. Okay. And I want more of a lime. This is more turquoisey. I want a little more of a lime, so I'm going to go green, yellow, white, like we did for our northern lights in the sky. I'm going to load that brush up. Green, yellow, white. If you have green oxide, you won't have to work as hard to get this color. You're pretty darn close to this color. And when we paint a tree like this, remember at the top, it's small, and then it gets fatter as you go down. And I'm going to avoid my snowman. A couple of them might touch my snowman, but I'm going to try and avoid him for the most part. So I've got that brush loaded with paint. I'm going to use it skinny ways. And right up here at the top, I'm going to pull down and out. Pull down and out. Now, as you work your way down, you have to do, so this one is left and right. The second row is left, straight, and right. Left, left, straight, straight, right, right. You have to get those branches that are more straight up and down in the middle so it doesn't look like your tree has a split all the way down it. Okay, left, left, straight, right. Left, straight, right. And my biggest guidance to you here is stay random, right? You don't want it to look like an artificial Christmas tree where all your branches are in rows, right? Get random with it. So right now I'm using green, a little yellow, a little white, because that gets it a little more limey for me. And then we'll add a little more yellow and a little more white in a little bit. So it's pretty monotone right now. And that's okay. So I'm going to take this all the way down into the snow just a little bit. I guess something I should point out, when I load my brush up with paint, regardless of the green that you're using, I won't mix it ahead of time. Ooh, I just looked at my palette. That's pretty. Sorry. I won't mix it ahead of time. I'll let the mixing happen on my canvas, and that's how I get all these lovely different shades of green. So each time I get paint, I'm going green, little yellow, little white, and you can see it's all different on my brush. I have all these different shades of green. And then when I lay those brush strokes on there, I get all those really cool shades of green. Okay. So now once we have all the green on there, with a dirty brush, I'm going to go back and pick up a little bit of white, just white. So I have dirty green on my brush, and I'm grabbing a little bit of white, and every now and then put some little white shushes in there. You know, shushes. And I like to do this while the green is still wet. So if something goes sideways and I'm like, too much white, I can just go over it a couple times and blend it in. Like this looks like a big white banana. I can go right back over it and blend it in. Now, as you do this, you can add yellow and white. That makes it a little interesting. You could add a little bit of that turquoise if you wanted. I think I'm going to. Again, if you don't have that turquoise, you can mix phthalo blue, phthalo green, and white, and that'll give you turquoise. I think I'm going to put a little in because it'll pull that color from my sky. Oh, pretty. Very subtle. And then the trick with this is knowing when to stop. Isn't that the way with life, right? Knowing when to stop, because it would be really easy for me to keep painting and painting and painting. And before I know it, it would be all one shade of green. That's not what I want. I want to keep all those lovely different colors in there. If I keep going over it, it's going to turn it into one solid green, and that's not what I want. Do you like how I said the trick is knowing when to stop, and yet I just keep painting? Okay. My tree is skinnier than the one in the original painting. I'm okay with that. That's all part of being an artist, is having things happen and being okay with them, right? Going to accept it, move on. So let's take about 5 minutes or so. Keep working on your tree. You know what I'm going to do before I'm done working on my tree? I'm going to take my my medium brush or my pointy brush, and with brown and a tiny bit of black, I'm going to cover the bottom of that trunk up. Brown, tiny bit of black. Go ahead and put the trunk on there. That way, if I need to, I can take a little bit of green and come back over and camouflage that trunk now. So keep working on your tree. About 4 minutes, we'll move on. I think next we'll probably put the hat on the snowman so it can have some time to dry. Because once we have the hat on the snowman, then we can give him a face. We can do some little black outlines, some shading down there. Yep, I think hat is next. About 3 minutes. All right, 2 more minutes and we'll move on at 8:10. Love looking over, seeing all you guys painting. Makes my heart happy. It's funny, as I look at this, my snowman is really big, but as I look at it, I think on the original painting, he's even bigger. Because his hat is going to be, what, maybe up to here? And then the bird, I don't know, I guess we're close. We're close. Okay. So let's get ready and move on to the hat. So the hat sits down on his head, right? It doesn't sit on top of, it sits down in a little bit. So let's find our, I'm going to use my medium brush. You can use whatever brush you want, but I'm going to use my medium brush, I think, because that's the one that's making me happy tonight. I'll clean it out and dry it off. And the hat is just black. And let's see, with my medium brush with black, I'm going to start with that brim of his hat, right? And it's going to cut his head about, not quite a third, maybe a quarter, because we still need room for his face down here, right? So maybe about, if I split this top circle in half, maybe about a quarter. And I want to give it a real gentle curve. A little bit bigger. It's maybe 1/4 inch thick-ish. It's like I just put a visor on him for the sun. And then we're going to put a square on top. And you can make it straight. You can make it a little funky curvy if you want. I'll make mine a little funky curvy. A little funky, right? Just like me. And fill it in with black. We'll give it some white outlines later, but for now it's just black boxes. Oh, hat. And it's supposed to be an old beat up hat, right? Isn't that the Frosty story? Okay. And then I've got room up here for my bird here in a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna hang on to that medium brush. Got a little bit of black in it. I'm gonna do a little more shading. This time I'm gonna go under my snowman and underneath my tree. So I'm using my medium brush. Again, whatever brush makes you happy. You can use your pointy brush if that's the one you've been using. I'm going to use my medium. I'm going to use it this way. I have black on there. I'm going to add some white. So I'm just looking for a gray, nice medium to dark gray. And I'm going to go skinny ways this way. I'm going to go side to side underneath my snowman. That helps sit him down a little bit. Some side to side dark gray shushes. If we don't do that, things look like they're kind of floating. So I need to do the same thing with my tree. I've got like a medium gray mixed, medium dark gray. And right here underneath my tree, I'm going to go side to side. And that helps sit them down so they're not floating out there. So now I'm going to take this brush and pop it in my water cup. And I think we should probably put arms on our snowman next. Yep, I think arms. That way the arms can be drying so we can put little mittens over top. So the brown is just like all the other colors. We have to add a little bit of white to it to make it really show up. It's too transparent otherwise. And his arms are a little higher than, if I find halfway, they're a little higher. And this one reaches out over in front of my tree. And this one reaches this way, right? Over here in the night sky. So I'm going to take my pointy brush, clean it out, dry it off, and I'm going to mix a little bit of white with my brown. Take just a little bit over here in my brown. And I'm going to twirl that brush to get it to a point. Doesn't take very much white, just a little. And then let's see. So there's halfway. I'm going to go a little up from there. So I'm going to do one there. And remember, they're not supposed to be straight. They're sticks, right? It's something we found in the yard. So don't get hung up on trying to make perfect little lines. And then this one. Snowman. And now once we have our sticks on there, we can let those dry and put mittens on here in a few minutes. So I'll give you a couple minutes to get your arms on there. We're getting down to details, right? And I think the trick with doing the details is knowing what's dry, what you can work on, and what's still wet you have to leave alone. Like we can't put the bird on the hat because the hat's still wet. So we got to leave it alone. I keep thinking about my star here on the tree, but the top of my tree is still a little wet. And I want my star to be bright yellow. I don't want to mix any green in with it. So I'm hopping around looking for those things that are dry that I can move on and paint. So I think next is probably my snowman's eyes, mouth, buttons, and then that little tiny bit of a black line to separate each one of those sections. I think that's our next step. So let's go ahead and do that. Now to get perfect little round dots, I like to use the other end of my brush. The eyes are bigger than the mouth and the belly buttons. So I think I'm going to use my big brush for the eyes. You can paint them with your bristles if you want, but I have really good luck doing small dots with this end of my brush. So I have my big brush for the eyes in my black paint. And let's see, eye right there. And another one right there. He has eyes. And then don't forget to wipe it off so you don't stick your hand in it. And then I'm going to go to one of my smaller brushes and do the same thing. Use the handle for the mouth and the belly buttons. And the mouth looks like it's whatever you want it to be, but it looks like it starts just below the eyes. So I have my smaller brush using the end of it. How many do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7? 4, 5, 6, one more, and 7. You look so happy. And belly buttons. Belly buttons. Buttons on his belly. That made me giggle way harder than it should have. Sorry. Belly buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. So let's see, at this point, we have our hat on, we have our arms, eyes, mouth, belly buttons. I'm going to go ahead now with a little bit of black paint with my small brush and do that little bit of outline there. It's the littlest thing, so subtle. So subtle, but it makes a difference. Helps separate those sections out. Just right there, that littlest bit of left and bottom. Left and bottom. There we go. Cute, cute. So at this point, my tree is still a little wet, so I can't put ornaments on there yet. The top is still a little wet, so I can't put the star on yet. No mittens because the tree is still wet. The hat is still wet, so I can't put my bird or my flower on, or my carrot nose. Let's work in the background a little bit and put some snowflakes back there. So if you decided not to splatter with the brush, you can use the other end of your small brush and do some white dots back there. If I'm going to use that technique, I like to think of them in like little clusters of 3. So like a little 3 cluster and a 3, like in random spots. You can also put like full snowflakes on there. So I'm going to play for a little bit. And that'll give these things time to dry. It's 8:23. So how about 8:30? We'll move on. 8:30, we'll move on. We'll do the star, we'll do the bird, we'll do some of the fine details then. So in the meantime, let's play and do some let's do some things in the background. Let's see. Some white. And So a lot of these snowflakes are, it's a plus and an X. Oh, I like that. I might not do much more to that. Little asterisk, little plus and an X. You could do little dots out at the ends. You could do little V's or little X's out at the ends. So again, about 8:30, we'll move on. We're giving these things time to dry. So I'm just playing, putting some snowflakes on there. And again, mine are just pluses and X's, little asterisks. And then I think I'm going to use the other end of my brush in the white and do like little clusters of snowflakes. 1, 2, 3. Again, I like to think of these in threes. 1, 2, 3. It's about 4 minutes. We'll move on. 4 minutes, we should be able to put some ornaments on our tree. We should be able to put the star on, some mittens, and then the rest of the top of our snowman. Okay, about 3 more minutes. And I think the way we're going to tackle this when we move on, the things that have red behind them, I think we're going to do those in white first to give them that nice solid base, and then be able to lay red over top when that white is dry-ish. Our other colors, we can add white to them and that brightens them up. And that makes them solid and not transparent, makes them nice and opaque. But if we add white to red, it makes it pink. And I don't want pink mittens and I don't want a pink bird. I want those to be nice and bright red. So I think in 2 minutes when we get ready, I think that's probably what we'll do. We'll do the bird in white and the mittens in white. And I know the carrot nose is orange, but I'll probably do it in white first. Because the carrot nose, for perspective, it's up, which means it has to go into the black of the hat. and I want to give it a nice solid base for that orange to lay on. So because I'll have to add so much white to make that orange show, I'm going to start with white. I know I just said a lot of things. Stay with me, okay? We'll do this together. This is me thinking out loud. So when we move on here in a minute, you're going to need one of your smaller brushes and a little bit of clean white paint. Okay, here we go. So smaller brush. So I'm going to use one of my pointy brushes, clean white paint. Let's do those couple of red bits in white first and give them time to dry. So let's do mittens. So I have my pointy brush with white out here at the end of this stick. Do mitten. And I need a thumb. And the little ring around the mitten. There we go. So it's a big, like half an oval. Give it a little thumb, and then give it the wrist part. So again, half an oval. Little thumb, boop, and then the wrist. So right there across the bottom. Okay, we'll let those dry, and we'll put red on them here in a little bit. Okay, so before I do that bird, I'm going to look at my hat, and I want to do a little bit of white outlining. This is such a small, subtle thing, but it'll make that hat stand out. So I've got just a little bit of white on my pointy brush. And I'm going to go across the top of the brim, down the side, across the bottom of the brim, the side. There is nothing perfect about this. It's just kind of messy. It's just enough, down the side, across the top. It's just enough to make that hat stand out a little bit because it's a black hat on a black background. So I very messily outlined it. Looks super messy. But it makes a difference when you get away from it. Right? Helps it stand out a little. I need to fix this a little bit. There we go. Okay. So I've got little white mittens. I've got those messy little white outlines on that hat just to help it stand out a bit. And I'm going to do my bird in white, just like the mittens, because then we need to let it dry, right? So my bird is half on my hat, half in the sky. I'm going to find about the middle of my hat. And I'm going to come straight, this is his belly, down and around a little, right? Zerp, there's his belly. That little straight down and around. It's like a half of a smile. His belly is round, but his back is flat. And I'm going to fill him in. Okay, there's his body. His head is a circle. Should probably get closer here. His head is a circle. That's a rough looking circle. Sorry. And he's a cardinal. So on the back of his head, I'm going to do a little floop, floop. So on the back of his head, start right there in the top middle and go to the right and up for his little crown. A little bit of a beak here. And then tail feathers out here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to draw it out here. So if you missed that first go round, let's do that again. So here's my snowman's hat. Okay. So start right here in the middle of the hat with your white. Down and around. There's his belly. His back is flat. His head is a circle. He's a cardinal, so he has a little loop up the back. That's his little head crest. Little beak. And then tail feathers. Okay. There's my cardinal. So again, in white, right? We'll leave him alone, let him dry. I want to do one more thing in white, I think. I want to put that carrot on there. I want to put his carrot nose on. So that way I won't have to use so much white when I'm ready to put the orange on. It'll be a nice, bold, brilliant orange. So pointy brush with white. And his nose is right here between his eyes, down a little bit. And it's not straight up, it kind of goes up and to the right, but it misses that eye. I'm going to add a little orange to mine so you can see what I'm doing, because painting white on white is going to be really hard for you to see. So right in this center section, I'm going to do a little bit of a smile. That's the bottom of his carrot nose. Nice and close. It's the bottom of his nose. And it goes up onto his hat. And back down. Ooh, Andrea, that's a good decision. Let's go ahead and do that too. So Andrea just pointed out, should we do the white on the star first? We can. I say we go ahead and do that to give it that nice solid base. I've got white on my brush. I'm going to go ahead and put my star on there. Good call, madam. And my star is pretty big. It's a pretty big star. There we go. Big star. Again, just giving it that white base to live upon. I'll paint it yellow here in a little bit. I want to do the little loop. There we go. This little stand that holds him on the tree. Okay, so for white bases, we have mittens, we have nose, we have bird, and we have star. I'm not too worried about the ornaments. You could do them too if you wanted. I'm not too worried about them. And it's interesting, if you look at the original, you can see when they put the ornaments on there, you can see through them. You can see the green tree beyond the ornaments. Okay, so let's see. Let's let those things dry. Let's go ahead and put ornaments on our tree. All right. So I'm going to take with my pointy brush some white and some yellow. And let's put some, there's one, little ornaments, little circles, purple circles. What do I have? 6. I need one more because I'm an odd bird. 7. There we go. 7 yellows, and then some white in my orange to make it nice and bright. And orange 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, where's number 7 go? Can't have an even number. There we go. 7. So for my ornaments, I'm doing, it looks like there's yellow, red, and orange. You can do whatever color makes you happy, but that's the direction I'm going. And I'm going straight red. I'm not adding white to it because I don't want them to turn pink. It just means we'll see through them to the green. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Ornaments. Okay, let's see. What should we do now? Trying to decide if I want the little flower on the hat. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to put the flower on the hat. So pink flower. So I've got red on my brush. Add some white. And this kind of flower is really easy because it's small. I can use my small brush that's loaded up with paint. I'm going to put my flower here. So I'm going to set it down and pull into the middle. Rotate my painting, set it down and pull into the middle. Right? I'm setting it down and pulling into the middle. And then with a little bit of yellow and white, I can put my center in there. Yellow and white. There we go. Boop. Flower. Oh, how fun. Ooh, holly on the hat. Oh, you guys are getting creative. I love it. That's awesome. Okay. So there we go. So I'm going to keep going. Let's see. I want to put red on my mittens, red on my bird, red on my mittens. Covering that white over. I was just giving it a nice solid base so my mittens looked nice and bright red. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, bright red mittens. Let's see, my bird. I'm going to go ahead and paint him in red, except for his beak. I'm going to leave his beak alone, but I'm going to paint the rest of him in red. Because I know black, the little black mask on his face, black will cover red, orange won't. And orange is what I want his beak to be. So I'm going to paint his whole body red except for his beak. Go. Then I'm going to clean that brush out and I'm going to get some orange for his beak and orange for my snowman's nose. And I shouldn't need to add white because they already have that white base under them. So pointy brush with white. Ooh, yes. Ooh, that's a good looking carrot. Okay, so my carrot and a little dude's beak. There we go. I'm gonna let him dry for a hot second. I'm gonna go over here and paint my star in yellow. And because it has that white base under it, thank you, Andrea, we should be able to just add yellow over it. Ooh, nice and bright. So we're starting to get toward the end of this painting. I would love when we're done, looks like we'll be done about 9 o'clock. When I call this painting done, I'll give you an hour to send me your painting, a picture of you with your painting. You can private message the studio or email it to me. And I will pull those pictures together for a group photo. I haven't been able to do that the last couple weeks because of technical difficulties, but hope springs eternal, right? I'm going to try tonight. It let me download a couple photos, so we'll see. But if you could send them to me, that would be lovely. So I'll give you an hour to do that, an hour from the time we're done. So that gives you an hour to continue to play and paint if you want. But by 10 p.m., please have your picture sent to me so I can try again to share it. I'm just adding little bits of white in on my star here. Giving it some little highlights, just playing. Then I'm going to head back into my cardinal. I need a smaller brush, I think, because those details on that cardinal are little. There we go. Oh, we are so close, super close. So with my cardinal with a little bit of black, I want to put that little black mask on him. So the mask is behind the beak. right there. Just like that little square behind the beak on the red face. With that little bit of black on my brush, let me get a little more black. With that black on my brush, I can give him the idea of a little wing. So, zoop, right there. I can put some little lines in his tail feathers just to make him a little more interesting. I can give him little feet here. Give him a little streak right there in the back of his crown. While I have black on that little brush, I do some little lines on my carrot. Right, and the thing that'll help your carrot look round is if you follow this frown that we put on or smile that we put on originally, right? Right there. Keep those little lines kind of curved. You can put as much detail or as little detail in here as you want. With my littlest brush, I'm going to go to white. I want to put a little, just the idea of a little eye here. Just a little tiny, tiny white dot. He might have a little highlight down his back, little highlights in his tail feathers, little highlights on his feet. Again, you can play. You can do so much with that. With my little brush with white, I'm going to, I want to put a little glint in his eyes. I'm running out of clean white. Searching now, searching for clean white. Here we go. Okay, clean white with my little brush. I want to do some little white dots in the tops of my snowman's eyes. Boop. Boop. It's one of those subtle things, but it gives him life, right? Adds a little bit of life to him. I do some little white flare outs from my star. It's fun. I could do some little white outlining on my flower if I wanted. Oh, you could spend all kinds of time adding all the little details to this. Oh, I need polka dots on my mittens. So again, those lovely little dots, I'm going to the other end of my brush, because that's easier. Okay, I do believe we've come to the end here. Whew, there's a lot of little detail in that guy. Ooh, garland around the tree. Your snow turned into fireworks. That happens. That's okay. Garland around the tree. If I were gonna do Stars. If I were going to do garland around my tree, I would be tempted to thinking about this. I would be tempted to use the other end of my big brush so I get big dots. And if you're going to put them on there, do them in a diagonal stripe. So start here and go 1, 2, 3, and then down a little bit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have these diagonal lines down your tree. That would be cool. So as we wrap up tonight, you keep playing. You have until 10 o'clock to send me a picture of you with your painting. I love seeing your faces in the pictures. You have until 10 o'clock to send that to me, and I will try to collage them all together and put it out as our group photo. The very last thing you want to do is sign your painting. People have different feelings about this. I feel like every painting should be signed. Doesn't have to be signed on the front, but you want to sign it on the back if you don't. I have my handy dandy paint pen. I usually sign mine down at the bottom corner somewhere. You can sign on the back if you want. Oh, struggles. But if you sign on the back, never here, always here where the wood is. You don't want it to bleed through to the front. Okay. So I'm going to set this back down here. I think I'm going to go ahead and sign mine and call it done, because I could play with it forever, but I think I probably need to stop. And there we go. It's signed, so now I'm officially finished. So from me to you, thank you so much for joining me for Painting Through the Pandemic. This has been a lot of fun tonight. Don't forget to send me your picture. Check out the Zoom chat, scroll all the way to the top, and I have the different things that show where you can donate to the studio, because again, that's what's helping me stay open. So I appreciate that. I will go ahead and stop the recording now and then give you the opportunity to unmute and we can chat for a little bit if you want. So thank you all so much. I will see you next week.